Have you ever felt that crushing moment when you're so close, yet so far? When you look at her and every instinct screams connection, but the words just won't come out right and rejection hangs in the air like a storm cloud ready to break? That fear, that hesitation, it's not just in your head, it's wired deep into human psychology. And right now, I'm going to show you exactly why it happens and how you can step into a space where rejection isn't just unlikely. It becomes almost impossible. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women are always aware of the energy behind your words, even more than the words themselves. They read tension, hesitation, and desire faster than you think because evolution made them sensitive to signals of safety, confidence, and emotional intelligence. And when you approach intimacy without understanding these signals, it triggers an automatic no in her brain, even if she's deeply attracted to you. But here's where it gets fascinating. The human mind responds predictably to certain emotional triggers. You can create an invisible bridge, a magnetic pull that makes her not just comfortable, but eager to share closeness. It's not manipulation in the creepy sense, it's psychology. It's understanding her subconscious needs and aligning your behavior in a way that sparks trust, safety, and desire simultaneously. Most men fail here because they approach intimacy like a transaction. They ask for what they want without earning the emotional context that makes that yes natural. Think about it. When someone approaches you without reading the room, without calibrating their energy, it feels jarring. It feels abrupt. And your brain, her brain, reacts defensively. That's the moment most men freeze, stutter, or worse, retreat. You've probably been there, right? Trying to find the perfect line or the magic words, when the real issue isn't what you say, it's how you make her feel in the moments leading up to it. Here's the subtle secret. Women are drawn to men who can navigate emotional complexity with calm and confidence. Not arrogance, not desperation, but quiet assurance that you can hold space for her vulnerability while remaining in control of your own energy. That's a rare quality, and when you show it, you're no longer asking for intimacy, you're offering it. And that shift in perspective changes everything. Now, let's address fear, because fear is the real killer here. Fear of rejection isn't just a momentary emotion. It's a neurological response that can sabotage every interaction before it even begins. Your heart races, your words stammer, your body language shrinks. None of this is lost on her. Women pick up microsignals instantly. But here's the paradox. The men who master this don't fight fear. They channel it. They feel the tension, acknowledge it, and redirect it into presence, playfulness, and subtle confidence. There's also a deeper psychological layer most men overlook: scarcity triggers. Women are wired to notice subtle cues of attention and restraint. Too much eagerness signals desperation. Too little interest signals disconnection. The sweet spot, the psychological sweet spot, is a delicate balance of clarity, intention, and unpredictability. Master this balance, and suddenly the idea of intimacy doesn't feel like a request. It feels like a natural next step in an emotional dance she's already participating in. And this is why most approaches fail. Men rely on scripts, on pickup lines, on what to say, when what actually moves the needle is unseen. The emotional architecture you build before you ever speak. Every glance, every touch, every inflection in your voice communicates a story, intentionally or not. Women subconsciously read that story before you even open your mouth, and that story determines whether your request lands as welcome or unwelcome. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the precise psychology behind this invisible architecture. You'll learn how to craft your energy so that when you do ask, it feels inevitable, natural, and even exciting for her. You won't need gimmicks, scripts, or tricks that feel fake. You'll be tapping into timeless emotional truths that women respond to instinctively. But to get there, you first need to unlearn the patterns that keep most men trapped in rejection loops. You need to recognize that what feels like risk and discomfort is actually the pathway to magnetism, if handled correctly. You can turn hesitation into intrigue, tension into connection, and nervous energy into presence that pulls her in rather than pushes her away. Right now, I want you to imagine this. The next time you're near the woman you desire, you're completely aware of her emotional state, fully in control of your own, and every gesture, glance, and word you offer is amplifying comfort, desire, and curiosity. The idea of intimacy becomes a mutual step forward, not a plea or a gamble. This is the power of understanding female psychology at its deepest level, and why men who master this rarely experience rejection in the way most do. And here's the first critical insight most men overlook. Women respond far more to how you make them feel than what you say. A single word can fall flat or ignite curiosity depending on the emotional context surrounding it. That context is invisible, but it can be consciously built moment by moment. That's what you'll start mastering today. Finally, ask yourself this before moving forward. Are you approaching intimacy as a demand or as an invitation? This distinction alone separates men who succeed effortlessly from men who constantly stumble. Because women don't resist desire, they resist pressure, confusion, and lack of presence. When you embody clarity, confidence, and emotional attunement, rejection doesn't just decrease, it practically disappears. By the time we finish this, you won't just know how to ask, you'll know how to create an emotional environment where the answer is almost always yes, without ever crossing boundaries or violating comfort. This is the dark psychology of connection that most men ignore, and it will change the way you relate to women forever. Let's dive into the subtle signals that determine whether a woman subconsciously opens up or instinctively shuts down. Most men don't see them because they're invisible, but they control attraction far more than words ever could. Every glance, every micro-expression, every shift in posture communicates emotional intent. And if you misread or ignore these signals, no amount of charm or clever phrasing can overcome it. The first trigger is safety. Women instinctively are always scanning for emotional and physical safety. If she senses tension, unpredictability, or unresolved anger, even fleetingly, her subconscious flips a switch. That switch is the reason polite, confident men often get overlooked by women who are already feeling it. The energy you carry before asking for intimacy is more important than the words you eventually speak. When you embody calm assurance, she relaxes. Her nervous system registers. This is a man who can hold space, who is reliable, who can handle intimacy without fear or pressure. Then there's anticipation. The human mind craves mystery. It craves curiosity. A man who over-explains, rushes, or demands certainty kills anticipation. But a man who communicates subtle interest while maintaining slight unpredictability sparks intrigue. Think about it. In storytelling, the best narratives are built on tension and release. The same applies here. If you can cultivate emotional tension, not confusion, not fear, but the kind that excites the imagination, you activate desire without ever pushing. That's the essence of this dark psychology trick. Make closeness feel like a natural unfolding, not a demand. Another overlooked trigger is mirroring emotional rhythm. Women intuitively match emotional cadence. They feel energy and respond to it. If you are nervous, hurried, or scattered, she mirrors that tension. But if you are steady, grounded, and in control of your energy, she subconsciously aligns with that calm, confident rhythm. This isn't manipulation, it's subtle attunement. By synchronizing your emotional tempo with hers, you build a bridge she feels but cannot explain. That bridge is where intimacy grows naturally. Next is lighthearted dominance, a concept most men misinterpret. This isn't about control, aggression, or arrogance. It's about setting boundaries with playful confidence. For instance, small teasing, gentle challenges, or playful resistance communicates, "You are a man with value, someone who navigates his world with control and someone whose attention is worth earning. This triggers her subconscious reward system. She perceives you as emotionally rich and engaging, and her desire spikes without any explicit request. Subtle touch is another critical layer, but it's all in context. Touch communicates intent far faster than words. A brief, purposeful touch on the arm during a moment of laughter, or a soft brush of the hand to emphasize connection, signals intimacy without pressure. Women read intention in milliseconds. If your energy is aligned with curiosity, confidence, and care, these touches amplify desire. If your energy is scattered, they feel intrusive. The key is timing and emotional calibration, knowing exactly when a touch communicates warmth and when it feels invasive. Then there's the power of vulnerability wrapped in confidence. Most men shy away from showing depth because they fear it will reduce attraction. The opposite is true. When a man can express subtle vulnerability, a small insight into his thoughts or feelings, without losing composure, he signals emotional richness. Women are attracted to men who can hold their own emotional space while inviting hers. This combination of openness and stability creates magnetic tension, a pull she feels deeply without even realizing why. Another profound insight is attention scarcity. You cannot demand focus. You must create a magnetic presence that makes her choose to give it. This isn't manipulation. It's simply being emotionally present in a way that feels rewarding. When you speak less, listen more, and allow space for her to project her curiosity. Her brain releases dopamine every time she engages. The scarcity isn't about ignoring her. It's about being intentional, creating a rhythm of engagement that feels exciting rather than routine. Finally, let's talk about predictable unpredictability. Women crave consistency, but they also crave emotional novelty. A man who is steady in his values, calm in his energy, and clear in his intentions, but occasionally surprises with thoughtful humor, unexpected insights, or subtle gestures, activates her brain's reward system. She experiences the comfort of stability and the thrill of excitement simultaneously. That combination is irresistible. By mastering these triggers, safety, anticipation, emotional mirroring, lighthearted dominance, subtle touch, confident vulnerability, attention scarcity, and predictable unpredictability, you don't just reduce rejection. You make intimacy a natural next step she wants to take. Not because you told her to, not because you pressured her, but because her own mind is drawn to the emotional architecture you've built. Here's the reality most men miss. Asking for intimacy isn't a singular act. It's the culmination of all these unseen psychological moves leading up to that moment. If you've mastered them, her subconscious doesn't even perceive the request as a request. It perceives it as an inevitable expression of connection she's already participating in. That's why learning this isn't about lines or scripts. It's about understanding the subtle, invisible psychology behind attraction and connection. And here's a subtle truth. Fear and hesitation are your allies when harnessed correctly. The tension you feel before asking is actually a signal that you're about to enter a space where emotional resonance is high. Men who mismanage fear freeze or push too hard. Men who channel it transform it into presence, confidence, and timing. That's when a yes is no longer a gamble. It's a natural response. Now let's get into the part most men obsess over, but almost always get wrong: what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Words alone aren't enough. Timing, tone, and context shape how she experiences every phrase, and when these align with her emotional state, you don't ask for intimacy, you invite it in a way she subconsciously wants. First, understand that language is a delivery system, not the driver. The real influence comes from your energy, your presence, and the emotional environment you've already created. Words are simply the punctuation that confirms what she's already sensing. Think of it like a symphony. The orchestra of your energy plays first, and the words are just the subtle notes that complete the melody. Start with soft, confident framing. Avoid heavy declarations, over-explanations, or pressure-filled language. Instead, Your statements should communicate clarity and calm curiosity. For example, instead of saying, "Do you want to come closer?" which triggers her decision-making anxiety, a soft, confident framing might sound like, "I'd love to feel closer to you right now," paired with a steady, calm tone and gentle eye contact. This shifts the dynamic. You're expressing desire, not demanding approval. Desire framed this way feels safe, intriguing, and mutually participatory. Tone is everything. A playful, slightly teasing, and deeply confident tone communicates emotional safety and subtle dominance simultaneously. Most men speak in tones of desperation, too eager, too high-pitched, too fast. Women subconsciously detect this as urgency, which triggers a need for caution. Calm, measured speech, pausing slightly between words, signals control and patience. When your tone matches emotional intent, your words become irresistible. Timing aligns with her emotional rhythm. Observe microsignals, the way she mirrors your posture, her breathing, the dilation of her pupils, the openness of her body language. These are subtle indicators that she's emotionally aligned with you. When she leans in, laughs with genuine ease, or maintains prolonged eye contact, these are cues that the environment you've created has activated the desire pathway in her brain. That's your window. Not earlier, not later. Right then. Another critical element is contextual invitation. The most effective requests for intimacy aren't abrupt. They arise naturally from the moment. For instance, if you're sharing a quiet conversation and she's laughing, lightly touching her hand while saying, "I like how close we feel right now," doesn't feel like a request. It feels like a natural extension of the energy you've built. Context transforms a potential no into an automatic yes. Subtlety trumps bluntness. Direct, heavy requests can create resistance, but subtle invitations align with her subconscious desire. It's about guiding her through emotional breadcrumbs rather than forcing a decision. The more effortless the approach appears, the more she feels in control, even as she's drawn in. It's a paradox. By making your intention clear, but leaving space, you paradoxically amplify attraction. Playfulness is another invisible force. Humor, teasing, and shared private jokes reduce tension while increasing emotional connection. This creates a dopamine loop. Every interaction feels rewarding, exciting, and unique. When you pair this with confident energy, your requests for closeness feel less like requests and more like natural next steps in a game she's already invested in. Body language works as a silent language of desire. Leaning slightly forward, keeping shoulders relaxed, maintaining consistent eye contact, and mirroring her movements all communicate nonverbal consent and alignment. Women interpret these cues subconsciously, and when executed correctly, they remove the need for persuasion. Your body is saying, "We're aligned," long before your words do. The words you choose should amplify emotional resonance, not pressure her mind. Avoid "should we" or "do you want?" Instead, focus on expressions like, "I feel drawn to you right now." Being close like this feels natural. "I love how connected we are." Notice the difference. These phrases express your emotional state rather than asking her to make a decision. Women respond emotionally first, cognitively second. By stating your feelings instead of seeking permission, you shift the dynamic. She feels included in the experience rather than burdened with a choice. Finally, understand the power of silence. Pausing after your statement gives her brain space to process desire rather than react defensively. Most men rush to fill silence, but silence is magnetic when paired with confident energy. It signals that you are comfortable, grounded, and patient, qualities that trigger both comfort and attraction in her subconscious mind. At this stage, everything you've learned, the energy you bring, the timing, the subtle touches, the framing of words, culminates. Asking for intimacy is no longer about negotiation. It's about guiding the natural flow of the connection you've already built. And when done correctly, she doesn't even think about saying yes. It's simply the next step in the emotional journey you've carefully orchestrated. This is the difference between men who fail and men who succeed effortlessly. Preparation, awareness, and mastery of invisible emotional triggers. Most men try to force the moment. The men who succeed make the moment inevitable. It's not about what you say. It's about how the environment you've created makes her feel and how your energy subtly communicates desire, safety, and intrigue simultaneously.
Now we're entering the part most men never understand. The unconscious patterns women operate on when it comes to attraction and intimacy. These patterns are not random. They're deeply rooted in evolution, psychology, and emotional signaling. If you miss them, your approach will always feel like guesswork. But if you understand them, rejection stops being a possibility. It becomes almost irrelevant. First, understand the pull of emotional resonance. Women subconsciously track consistency between words, tone, and energy. In other words, they're constantly asking, without thinking, does this man's energy match his intention? If it does, she feels drawn. If it doesn't, she feels alarm. That's why scripted lines, rehearsed dialogues, or forced confidence rarely work. Women are reading layers beneath your words, micro-expressions, breathing patterns, posture, and subtle gestures, and they react to alignment, not the surface content. Next is the paradox of curiosity and closeness. Women crave emotional security, but also novelty. If a man is too predictable, she may respect him, but lose attraction. If he's unpredictable without stability, she feels unsafe. The key is balancing both. Provide emotional consistency while introducing small, unexpected elements, humor, a subtle insight, a different perspective that make her brain release dopamine. When this pattern repeats, her subconscious begins to associate your presence with both comfort and excitement. That is the neurological foundation of attraction. Then there's the hierarchy of attention. Her brain is wired to notice who values her attention wisely. If you overinvest, she subconsciously devalues it. If you underinvest, she may lose connection. The sweet spot lies in intentional scarcity, being fully present when you engage, but not available for constant validation. Women interpret this as emotional richness, signaling that you have your own world, purpose, and boundaries. Scarcity is not withholding. It's demonstrating that your attention is earned, not automatic. Another critical unconscious pattern is mirrored energy. Women subconsciously mimic the emotional rhythm of those they are drawn to. When you are calm, confident, and emotionally attuned, her nervous system mirrors yours, creating subtle synchronization. This synchronization amplifies attraction without a single word. Conversely, if your energy is chaotic or hesitant, she mirrors that discomfort, increasing tension and resistance. The mastery here is emotional self-regulation. Your internal state dictates her external response. The role of challenge and validation is equally important. Women are drawn to men who challenge them subtly while validating their worth. Challenge isn't conflict. It's playful, intellectual, or emotional stimulation that sparks curiosity. Validation is showing she is seen, understood, and respected. The interplay creates a magnetic tension. She feels mentally stimulated and emotionally safe at the same time. This dual dynamic is a hidden psychological lever most men never learn to pull. Now, let's examine the pull of progressive intimacy. Women's brains respond more positively to gradual, predictable steps toward closeness than abrupt leaps. Each interaction should build on the last, layering trust, comfort, and attraction. Think of it like a staircase. Each step must be steady, deliberate, and emotionally calibrated. When you align your timing, touch, tone, and conversation with this natural rhythm, intimacy no longer feels like a request. It feels inevitable. There's also a subtle pattern involving emotional contrast. Women are drawn to men who can navigate emotional highs and lows with stability, displaying a rich emotional palette. Through humor, curiosity, calm decisiveness signals emotional depth. But it must be wrapped in control. Uncontrolled extremes trigger defensive responses. Mastering emotional contrast creates intrigue, excitement, and trust simultaneously. Finally, understand the unconscious reward loop. Every positive interaction releases dopamine in her brain. Small gestures, attentive listening, playful teasing, confident presence all contribute to this neurochemical feedback. When done correctly, her brain begins to associate you with pleasure, safety, and desire automatically. The more she experiences this loop, the more naturally she gravitates toward closeness, and the harder it becomes for her to resist genuine intimacy. Here's the critical insight most men miss. All of these patterns operate below conscious awareness. She isn't thinking about rules, lines, or strategies. She's responding emotionally to the architecture of your presence, energy, and emotional intelligence. If you can orchestrate these patterns consciously while maintaining authenticity, rejection becomes a near impossibility. Not because you tricked her, but because her subconscious already chose connection long before words were spoken. By understanding and aligning with these unconscious patterns, you create a magnetic force that pulls her toward you while leaving her feeling safe, valued, and intrigued. The interplay of safety, curiosity, attention, mirroring, challenge, progressive intimacy, emotional contrast, and reward loops forms the invisible framework of attraction. Master this, and every request for closeness feels natural, mutual, and even desirable to her subconscious mind. And the final truth here is simple but profound. Women don't reject men they feel aligned with. When your energy, timing, and emotional attunement match her unconscious patterns, intimacy is no longer something you ask for. It becomes something she participates in willingly, effortlessly, and often enthusiastically. Now we move into the most powerful layer, advanced emotional calibration. This is where theory turns into subtle action, the kind that makes intimacy feel inevitable without pressure, guilt, or manipulation. Most men never reach this level because they focus solely on words or superficial charm. The real power lies in aligning your energy, presence, and behavior with her subconscious desires. The first element is emotional pacing. Women respond to rhythm. Your emotional intensity should rise and fall in waves, never flat, never forced. For example, start with light, playful energy, humor, teasing, and shared curiosity. Then, gradually shift to moments of deeper emotional resonance. A calm glance, a thoughtful comment, a subtle touch that communicates attention. The brain reacts to these emotional fluctuations like a pendulum. Too fast, and she feels rushed. Too slow, and she loses interest. Mastering this rhythm primes her mind to accept closeness naturally. Next is proximity calibration. Physical distance communicates volumes subconsciously. Leaning slightly closer during conversation, aligning your body orientation, or mirroring her movements communicates connection before any words are spoken. But this must be intentional and context-sensitive. Misread the rhythm, and proximity feels invasive. Read her micro-signals, eye contact, shoulder orientation, foot direction, and adjust accordingly. Women are wired to notice even millimeter-level shifts in your positioning. Subtle, anticipatory touches amplify connection. These are not grabs, pushes, or manipulations. They are gentle, intentional gestures timed with emotional peaks. A brush of the hand while laughing, a light touch on the forearm during a shared insight, or a guiding hand when moving together communicates intimacy without verbal request. The key is emotional alignment first. Touch follows energy, not the other way around. When your presence has already created trust, subtle touch is interpreted as warmth and desire, not pressure. Then there's micro-expression calibration. Every subtle facial shift, smile, eyebrow raise, pupil dilation, conveys emotional information she reads instantly. When your micro-expressions reflect curiosity, confidence, and attentiveness, she perceives alignment and safety. This doesn't require perfection. It requires conscious awareness of your own expressions and the ability to mirror her energy without copying her. Subtlety is magnetic. Overdo it, and it becomes obvious. Underdo it, and she misses the signal. Vocal tonality mastery is another advanced layer. Women unconsciously respond to vocal resonance. A calm, grounded, slightly lower tone signals confidence and stability. Slight pauses, soft emphasis on key words, and varied cadence signal emotional richness. Nervous, high-pitched, rapid speech triggers caution. The words matter less than the rhythm, pitch, and flow. Think of your voice as a musical instrument. The melody moves her subconscious more than the lyrics ever could. Next is emotional reflection and mirroring. This is different from mimicry. It's subtle attunement. If she laughs softly, you smile softly. If she leans in, you lean in with controlled awareness. If her tone deepens, you slightly deepen yours in harmony. Mirroring conveys empathy and emotional presence, creating a sense of shared reality. Women unconsciously interpret this as connection, safety, and compatibility, all prerequisites for intimacy. Another powerful principle is controlled anticipation. Women respond to emotional suspense that feels safe and playful. You create small, enjoyable pauses in conversation or interaction that allow her mind to lean in. The effect is magnetic because her brain starts to predict pleasure in your presence. Each pause, each subtle gesture, each thoughtful word becomes a trigger for dopamine. The more she experiences these anticipatory loops, the more her mind associates closeness with excitement and safety. Finally, anchoring emotional highs. When a shared moment reaches emotional peak, laughter, shared insight, or quiet intimacy, anchor it with presence, hold her gaze, maintain calm posture, and subtly reinforce the connection. This strengthens the neurological link between your energy and positive emotion. Over time, your presence itself becomes a trigger for her desire to connect, making intimacy almost instinctively welcomed when the moment arrives. The overarching principle here is synchronization, aligning your emotional, physical, and vocal cues with her subconscious needs. Words are only the surface. Energy is the medium. Subtlety is your tool. Timing is your weapon. Presence is your power. When these align, asking for intimacy is no longer a question. It's a natural continuation of the connection she has already chosen.
Now, let's address a reality most men fear: resistance, uncertainty, or hesitation. Even when you've mastered presence, energy, and emotional calibration, women may still pause, pull back, or hesitate. This isn't rejection, it's simply a subconscious check. Her brain is processing safety, desire, curiosity, and emotional rhythm simultaneously. How you respond in these moments determines whether the connection deepens or stalls. First, understand resistance is natural. Her subconscious mind is wired to evaluate closeness carefully. When a woman hesitates, it's a signal, not a denial. This moment is your opportunity to demonstrate emotional mastery. Most men panic, argue, or push harder. This triggers alarm and reduces desire. The men who succeed remain grounded, patient, and subtly reassuring. They embody calm assurance rather than desperate insistence. Mirroring resistance with calm energy is critical. If she hesitates or withdraws slightly, do not match it with anxiety or forcefulness. Instead, maintain a steady, confident presence. Your calm energy communicates, "I can hold space for your feelings. I'm not threatened by your hesitation." Women unconsciously respond to men who remain stable in moments of uncertainty. This stability creates magnetic pull, even when her mind is saying, "Wait." Next, use curiosity, not pressure. When she hesitates rather than trying to persuade, ask a light, open-ended question that invites dialogue. "I notice you're quiet. What's on your mind?" Or, "You seem thoughtful, and I'd love to understand you better." This reframes the interaction from a demand to a shared exploration. Her subconscious interprets this as respect and attunement, increasing her willingness to engage. Timing and pacing remain essential. Do not rush the moment. Allow micro-pauses to let tension resolve naturally. Women respond positively to men who can tolerate silence and emotional suspense without anxiety. Each pause allows her brain to process comfort, desire, and safety simultaneously. If you fill silence with talk or attempts to persuade, you undermine the emotional architecture you've built. Anchoring confidence in small victories is another powerful technique. When she responds positively, even subtly, eye contact, laughter, leaning in, acknowledge it subtly. A calm smile, light affirmation, or shared glance reinforces the desired behavior. This builds trust and signals that engagement is rewarding. Women unconsciously track these patterns, and over time, it creates a feedback loop that deepens attraction. Playfulness and gentle challenge also help navigate resistance. Humor, light teasing, or a playful shift in tone can break tension without pressure. This signals emotional intelligence and emotional control. It communicates that you are secure, confident, and fun. qualities that amplify desire and reduce subconscious hesitation. Another subtle yet critical tactic is controlled withdrawal. If she is uncertain or pulling back, step slightly out of the immediate intensity, not to punish, but to give space. This signals confidence and self-respect. Absence, when timed correctly, increases emotional tension and heightens attraction. She experiences curiosity and desire, wondering about your presence and subtly anticipating reconnection. Finally, emotional validation without capitulation. Acknowledge her feelings, subtle concerns, or hesitations without letting them dominate your energy. For instance, "I understand this feels new, and I appreciate you sharing that with me." This communicates empathy while maintaining your calm, confident stance. Resistance then becomes a bridge, not a wall. The core principle here is never treat hesitation as rejection. Hesitation is a subconscious signal, an invitation to demonstrate presence, attunement, and emotional mastery. When handled correctly, it strengthens attraction, builds trust, and sets the stage for intimacy to unfold naturally. Rejection only occurs when you respond with anxiety, force, or inconsistency. Mastery occurs when you remain grounded, playful, patient, and emotionally aligned. This is where the invisible psychology we've discussed becomes most visible. Her subconscious patterns, the emotional architecture you've built, and your alignment all converge. If you can navigate hesitation with calm, confident, attuned energy, her mind naturally gravitates toward closeness. You're no longer asking, you're co-creating the experience of intimacy.
Now everything comes together. The invisible patterns, emotional calibration, micro signals, timing, and psychological alignment. This is the moment where theory transforms into effortless reality, where asking for intimacy doesn't feel like a risk, but a natural next step in a connection you've already created. The ultimate principle is alignment. Every layer we've discussed, your energy, your tone, your timing, your touch, your presence, must converge in harmony. When this happens, your intention is not perceived as a request, but as a continuation of an experience she is already invested in emotionally. Women do not resist alignment, they flow toward it naturally. That is the subtle dark psychology at work, creating an irresistible pull without pressure, without coercion, without desperation. Think of it like a dance. Every step, glance, smile, and word builds a rhythm. Misstep and the tension breaks, perfectly attuned, and every move feels natural, magnetic, and inevitable. The women you connect with will feel safe, intrigued, and drawn in ways they cannot fully articulate. And here's the secret. It isn't about convincing her. It's about creating an emotional environment that makes the yes her choice, without her even realizing it consciously. Remember the core triggers: safety, curiosity, mirroring, light-hearted dominance, subtle touch, confident vulnerability, attention scarcity, predictable unpredictability, and emotional contrast. Layer these consistently across your interactions. Layer them with intention, with patience, with attunement. Do not rush, do not force, do not overthink. Let the energy do the work. Words confirm what your presence has already established. Even hesitation, even subtle resistance is no longer a threat. You now know how to respond: calm, patient, playful, and emotionally attuned. Her pause is not a denial. It's a chance to deepen trust, heighten intrigue, and strengthen attraction. Your mastery of emotional timing, energy pacing, and subtle behavioral cues turns potential friction into magnetic tension. She feels drawn closer without realizing why. And here is the ultimate insight. Intimacy is never about the words you ask. It's about the emotional experience you cultivate beforehand. When she feels safe, intrigued, and aligned with you, asking for intimacy is no longer a leap. It's the logical, inevitable continuation of a connection she has already chosen. That is the essence of dark psychology applied ethically, the psychology of influence without coercion. Now, I want you to engage personally. Think of the last time you felt uncertain asking for intimacy. Multiply that fear by how much your presence could align with these principles. What would change if hesitation no longer existed because you had mastered emotional alignment and subtle psychological triggers? Here's your personal equation for this video. Answer it in the comments. Your confidence, plus emotional awareness, plus timing, her subconscious desire. Write your answer below. Think about it, reflect on it, share it. And if this video changed the way you see connection, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Remember, mastery isn't about tricks, it's about understanding, presence, and alignment. Start practicing these principles today, and rejection will stop being a roadblock. It will become a teacher, showing you exactly where to grow. You've learned the invisible architecture of attraction. You've learned to align energy, words, touch, and timing. Now it's your turn to act consciously, intentionally, and with confidence. The choice of closeness is no longer hers to give reluctantly. It's something you both create together, naturally, irresistibly, and effortlessly.